Hey guys, how's it going? F8 Alpha here and welcome back to the channel. Today we're back in World of Tanks and we're taking a look at the newest additions or the newest bundles to the premium shop. We're taking a look at the KV-122 bundle. Now if you go to the premium shop, there are three bundles to choose from. You have the KV-122 Boosted, which is $32.99. You have the 2 Tank bundle, which is $45.99, and you have the Ultimate 2 Tank bundle, which is $59.99. Now, what exactly are you getting in these bundles? Let's go have a look at that. For the boosted bundle, you get just the KV-122, a garage slot, and some personal reserves. For the 2 tank bundle, of course, you get the KV-122, you get the T28 Echo with the F-30 gun on it, and you have 14 days of premium time, and of course, personal reserves and garage slots. And for the ultimate bundle, you get both the KV and the T28. In addition, you get a ×5 for the first 30 minutes with the KV-122 and the same ×5 multiplier for the T28 Echo there. Plus, you get 30 days of premium time and you get 10 personal reserves and also a 5,000 gold grant there. So I set up a comparison here to see exactly what you are getting with these tanks, and we'll start off with the KV-122. For this comparison, I will be comparing the KV to the IS-2 and to the VK4503, which I did a review on not that long ago. However, all three of these are premium tanks, but at the moment, only the KV is available in the premium shop. So let's go ahead and get into it here. So when it comes to DPM, the IS-2 has a 1983, which is the highest DPM, followed by the KV-122, which is 1834. And then lastly, we have the VK45, and that is at 1787. Now when it comes to penetration, the VK is the best. It has 203 millimeters, as it is packing that long-barreled 88, which is a fantastic gun, especially at tier 7. And the IS-2 and the KV obviously have the 122 millimeter, and they have 175 penetration. Now the damage, the alpha damage, obviously goes to the IS-2 and to the KV. They have 390 alpha damage per shot, followed by the VK, which has 240. Now the IS-2 has a slightly faster reload time and a slightly better firing rate, so it obviously has the higher DPM, as I mentioned earlier. Let's move forward to the gun handling. The aim time goes to the VK by a huge margin. It has a 2.1 second aim time, followed by the VK, which has a 3.0 second aim time, and then lastly we have the IS-2, which has a 3.2 second aim time. Now dispersion, once again, goes to the German VK. It has a 0.32, followed by the IS-2 and the KV, which have a joint 0.44 accuracy. The KV and the IS-2 have the same depression of 6 degrees, where the VK has a 8-degree gun depression, making it the better hill fighter by a slight margin by about 2 degrees. Now when it comes to mobility, the top speed goes to the KV. It has a 42 km/h forward speed, followed by the VK, which has a 38 km forward speed, and the IS-2, which has a 34 km forward top speed. Now the VK has a 15.0 power weight ratio, followed by the IS-2, which has a 12.9, and then lastly we have the VK, which has a 10.7. However, the VK is the heaviest at 65 tons, followed by the IS and the KV, which are right at 46 tons. So when it comes to ramming, the VK would be your tool of destruction for that. Now let's go ahead and move over to armor and hit points here. The hull armor on the KV is 75 at the front, 60 on the sides, and 60 at the rear. The turret is 100 on the front, 90 on the sides, and 90 at the rear. Now the IS-2 has this beat, as it has 100 on the front, 90 on the sides, and 60 at the rear. The turret is 100 on the front, 90 on the sides, and 90 at the rear. And the VK45 is 100 on the front, 80 at the sides, 80 at the rear. The turret on that is 100 on the front, 80 on the sides, and 80 at the rear, meaning that the KV-122 is the lightest armored or thinly armored tank in this comparison. But it's also the fastest tank in this comparison. For equipment on the VK, I would go with the rammer, I would go with vents, and I would probably go with the gunline drive. Alternatively, you could go with like optics, or you could go with a spall liner. Either one of those would be a decent option. However, me personally, I would go with the gunline drive, as to get that aim time down as quick as you can is very important, especially on a tank with 122 millimeter at tier 7. My thoughts on the VK-122 is basically it is a lightly armored heavy tank. 75 millimeters of front to hull armor is not going to get you very far, especially in a tier 7 battle. Now, obviously, if you're top tier in a battle, you're going to do very well with that 122 millimeter. However, in my opinion, the IS-2 beats out this tank as far as being a heavy tank, being able to take those shots and survive, being able to angle and absorb that incoming fire. The KV-122 is not quite up to being a heavy tank, in my opinion. Now, obviously, it is faster, so it plays like a slow medium with the 122 millimeter, which is great. But if you're looking for a Russian heavy tank, you're looking to get that kind of experience, then the KV-122 is not really your tank. You'd be far better with an IS-2 when they're in the premium shop, or with something along the lines of a IS-6 at tier 8, which is one tier above this. So that would be my recommendations for the KV. Now let's go ahead and transition over to the T28 Echo F-30, as this is a tank that is acquirable in two of the bundles I mentioned earlier. So for this comparison, I will be calling the T28 Echo F-30 just the F-30, and I will be comparing it to the T28, which is accessible through the tech tree. So let's go ahead and get into it here. So when it comes to firepower, the T28 has a 1,969, which is the best in this comparison, followed by the F-30, which has a 1,641, meaning that the T28 that's in the tech tree has about a 300 DPM advantage over the premium T28. But this doesn't quite tell the full story, as the guns are basically the main difference between these two tanks. So let's go ahead and look at that. The penetration on the F-30 is 120, which is fantastic at tier 4. That is better than a good number of tier 5s. Now, the T28 has 112, which is not bad. Definitely very, very competitive, and even competitive at tier 5. The damage per shot, the alpha damage, goes to obviously the F-30, as it has 160 alpha damage per shot, where the T28 has 85 damage per shot. Obviously, the T28 that's in the tech tree has a blistering fast rate of fire, has 23 rounds per minute, where the F-30 has 10.2, firing half the speed of the T28 that's in the tech tree. Now, aim time is where the F-30 really drops the ball. This is what really lets down the tank. It has a 3.0 second aim time, and it is terribly slow to aim. So the T28 with a 2.2 second aim time will definitely tear this tank apart very quickly. While you're aiming at an enemy tank, they're probably going to fire at least one, if not two rounds into you while you're still aiming at them, making this tank a bit frustrating to play. The dispersion is 0.41 on the F-30, which is terrible. That is even terrible for Russian standards. The T-28 has a 0.33, which is very good. Another quick note is that the F-30 only has 5 degrees of gun depression, where the T-28 has 6. And while 6 isn't outstanding, 6 is definitely better than 5. Let's go ahead and look forward to mobility here. The F-30 travels at 35 kilometers forward, where the T-28 can do 45. And to make things worse, the power to weight ratio on the F-30 is 15.1, where the T-28 is 29.2. And the T28 also has better ground resistances in hard, medium, and soft terrains, making the T28 massively more mobile than the F-30. Lastly, we will look at the armor and hit points of these two tanks. The F-30 has 50 millimeters on the front, 40 on the side, and 50 at the rear of the hull. The turret is 50 on the front, 40 at the sides, and 40 at the rear. The T28 has 30 at the front of the hull, 20 at the sides, and 20 at the rear. The turret on the T28 is 25 all the way around, meaning that the F-30 is a little bit more heavily armored. However, 50 millimeters of armor is not going to stop most of the tier 4s that you will encounter. Definitely not tier 5s and definitely not tier 6s, meaning that this armor really doesn't equate to much, especially when you consider that the T28 that's in the tech tree has a massive, and I mean very, very massive advantage in terms of mobility and top speed, making the T28 in this comparison a much better tank to go with, to choose. But let's go ahead and focus on the F-30, as this is part of the bundles that they're offering in the premium shop. Now, in terms of equipment on the F-30, I would go with the enhanced gunline drive, I would go with ventilation, and I would go with the gun rammer to try and get as much as you can out of this tank. My thoughts on the F-30, basically this is one to stay away from, guys. This tank is not well armored. The gun is just really frustrating to fire and very slow to aim. This tank, frankly, is outclassed by 90% of the tier 4s that you will be fighting. Now, be it is a premium tank and it does make a little bit more money and a little bit more credits, and it will tramp your crew. However, I would say save your money and invest in something like an IS-6 or something along those lines, or a KV-5 when they're in the premium shop. I would stay away from this bundle in general, and by bundle I mean all three of these bundles that are in the premium shop. Even the one that's $32.99 that just features the KV-122, unless you're just really in the market for a heavy tank that performs like a medium tank, I would just stay away from all three of these bundles. I feel that these are not even worth your time. I would save your money for something better. That's my thoughts on these bundles, guys. So with that said, I am F8 Alpha, and I will catch you guys next time.